Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Chicago. There's Park Street looking south, making sure no cars are going to turn and run me over. It's hard crossing here because people come around and make the right, but I want to get that nice view to the John Hancock here in Chicago, Illinois. Park and Fullerton. This is usually where I start and end my lives. There's that Mies van der Rohe building, 2400 North Lakeview. See Fullerton, 2400 North. Here's the Five Guys here, Lincoln Park. So I'm going to head to work on February the 5th, 2026. How you doing? We got Thursday. I can't believe the week's flying by. Every week we get on the wheel. Monday morning I'm like, another week, and now it's already Thursday. I'm like, what happened? Where goes the time? But here, let me turn on the comments here. Hey Izzy, how you doing? Good morning. Hey, thanks for tuning in, being up early or up late, wherever you're at. And GMJ, how you doing? Yeah, let's start our walk to work here. There's a chance we might get some snow flurries. We got about 22 degrees Fahrenheit. What's that still? -5, -6 Celsius. Wintertime. We'll head down Cleveland Street. I'm just gonna take my usual walk in here, nothing big. Yeah, we got 6:41 in the PM. As people know, I play volatility, the VIX index. I wouldn't recommend anybody doing it. It's a fool's game, but I'm hoping for a more volatile year, allows for more opportunities. And already this morning, you know, the market's kind of hanging there at the all-time highs. We're really not much higher than we were in October of last year, and the averages keep moving up. The moving averages keep moving up. Eventually the lines get closer, and eventually it'll drop below, and there'll be a 10% correction or a 20% correction, the typical garden variety pullback. For decades now, almost since the Great Recession, almost every single dip in the market, 10%, 20% correction. Even the pandemic, near 40% correction, whatever it was, trough, peak to trough. All those were buying opportunities. Everybody, including me, which I'm resisting, because, and I've been wrong. Every dip, the people that bought were rewarded. It's like Pavlov's dog. You dip, buy stocks, you're rewarded. And as more people tune in here, we'll start talking about other stuff. But it's too early in the morning here, so we'll go back. Hey, thanks for tuning in here. Welcome to Chicago. Here we're on Cleveland Street here, Lincoln Park. We're south of Fullerton. Most people that tune regularly know exactly where I'm at here. We're heading to work downtown Chicago. We're going to cross Belden Street. This nice residential housing. Mid-North Historic District's just a block over, I think, or maybe this is part of it, I'm not for sure. And we got 22 degrees Fahrenheit, -5 or 6 Celsius. And if you like this information, hit the thumbs up here. 6:43 in the AM, Thursday, February the 5th, 2025, Cleveland Street. Yeah, it feels quicker. I know the time speeds up. When I was a kid, we grew up before the internet, so imagine being stuck in a car, an old like Ford LTD in the back seat, driving for an hour to Cincinnati from the countryside, and you got nothing to do. You're staring out the window counting cars. 70s, 80s, and 90s, we had to occupy our imaginations, which now in hindsight we realize that was a valuable thing for our brains, to not be constantly overstimulated. My brain, like all prehistoric brains, were fight or flight, attention span, scroll to the next thing, emotional response, rinse, repeat, get conditioned by advertising, endless scroll. I think it's great. We need to seize this opportunity, and that's what I'm going to talk about eventually. If nothing, we got to start preparing for what comes after Trump. I don't care if you're conservative, a pro-Trumper or anti-Trumper, or if you're a liberal or a social democrat or apolitical or a Christian or a Satanist or a Buddhist or a Muslim or Jewish or whatever. Trump isn't going to live forever. and we'll just expect that he's going to serve out his 3-year term. I don't want him, I don't want any political violence. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, odds are, if you're a betting person, we'll look at the betting markets. Odds are it happens to every incumbent president. It doesn't matter if it happened to Joe Biden, it happened to Barack Obama in 2010. Usually whatever parties, and it happened to Trump to a lesser extent in 2018. No matter what party's in power, and the dynamics were different in 2018 because Trump didn't have control of the House and Senate from 26 to 2018. It was a narrow margin of the Democrats there, 2016 to 2018, like one vote. I think it's because Bernie Sanders caucused with the Democrats, even though he's a social democratic socialist. The odds are that the party in power, the Republican Party, is going to lose the House in the November elections. It's reinforced by the desperation of the current administration to nationalize elections, sow doubt and fear and mistrust in the state elections, because we know that happened last time in 2020, and it's manipulation, and so we got to see how that plays out. But I believe I'm glad people are paying attention to the Constitution. The Constitution says the power to hold elections is delegated to the states. It's a separation of power. The states run the elections. 50 different states and the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico and the foreign territories all have their own jurisdiction. It's not centralized in one federal agency. Usually things when they're concentrated, there's more of a chance of corruption. And even if somehow, which I'm not saying, the current administration would not, or if we could trust the current administration, which isn't that laughable when they lie into our face about some murders, but when here, hold on a second here. When the elections are all the states, not all 50 states can be corrupt at once. And that's why even the president is saying that, I'm going to get across the street. I don't want to bother this person walking a dog there. I know they got to stop, and I'm talking a lot here. I don't want... Okay, so thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Chicago. Here on Cleveland Street here, Lincoln Park, Chicago. We got about 6:48 in the AM, 22 degrees Fahrenheit, -5 Celsius. Even if the elections were federalized, it would show distrust on the right as well if a left-leaning administration would get into power and have federal elections, and that's the whole thing where people didn't believe in the results of the 2020 election. So mistrust either way. All I'm saying is that both parties should trust the wisdom of the founding fathers, that there was a reason they left the power to run elections to the states and didn't make it a federal power. And I know that it goes back to the gerrymandering, the electoral college, which is an issue. The electoral college is an issue with Americans' weird election system. But again, the only way I can maintain my sanity and get through this period this year until the November midterms is I have to hold out hope that eventually we got to start preparing for what comes after Trumpism. And if we don't use this moment to use what we've learned about, and I'll combine this. I'll combine the righteous anger of what we've learned from the Epstein files, that there is a vast global cabal of both people in the Democratic and Republican Party, people in power. That's why the Clintons are on that position. It's corporate CEOs. It's what that preacher was talking about in that video I reposted. The amount of Fortune 500 CEOs, people that run the Federal Reserve, intelligence agencies, the Israeli intelligence agency, the Russian intelligence agency, the British intelligence agency. Governments knew what Epstein was doing. They knew who was on his planes, and power protects power. And so if we let this moment go by without somehow getting some concessions out of corporate America and out of our own government and power to the people, and if we don't use this moment to somehow make a better society than the one we got now, it'll be we'll miss an opportunity here. And I'm afraid that the powers, the people in the Epstein files, are going to use to get people on the left and the right to fight amongst each other, because then they win. We got to keep the focus on the people at the top. They want to use all these wedge issues like ICE to divide people, and they still can get away with what they're getting away with, and no one's held accountable. And so we'll see how it plays out, and we will get through this. America's greater than any president. Chicago's greater than any mayor. I know a lot of people have a lot of criticism for Mayor Brandon Johnson. I understand that. Eventually, there'll be another election. There'll be another mayor, and then we can complain about that one. Just like we complained about all the ones before. Back to the dailies. It's good that we complain about our government. Government is not... The government is... The interest of the government is about making money, just like corporations. And when we sell our soul, America sells its soul to Nicki Minaj, and then America sells its soul, its principles. Some things are worth more than money. Trump's talking about $18 trillion that he bought in. That's a lie. They did the charts. They only brought in about 9.8, which we should celebrate that. 9.8 trillion. I said it wrong. $9.8 trillion in investment. We should celebrate that. Trump's saying 18. He's lying. He doubled the number in his mind, because he says if it's 9 trillion, I might as well say 18 trillion. I might as well say 260 bazillion. The numbers don't matter. What's $1 trillion? I can't even wrap my mind around a billion. But we're used to this administration lying to us, because all administrations lie to us. There were lies in the Biden administration. We know this. But there's more lies in this administration. And the American public doesn't like to be lied to. It's assault their intelligence. They think they could pay for a commercial and it'll change public opinion because they paid for a commercial. What happened to Savannah Guthrie's mom? I heard Savannah Guthrie's mom was kidnapped. Anybody else hear that? I saw that. And then the first thing I thought, honestly, my brain's all messed up. Of course, I got some conspiracy theory issues. But I'm like, is this further intimidation of the media? And I wonder. This is pure conjecture. I shouldn't even put this out here because I don't want to slander anything. But it wouldn't surprise me if it's just somehow with the federal current administration intimidation of journalists. And I'm not saying that they're the ones that kidnapped her mom. I'm saying that it could be like some rogue person, like what happened to Nancy Pelosi, that's trying to intimidate the media. Savannah Guthrie works for NBC. We know what happened to CBS. In other news, again, this wraps right into, if we don't use this moment that we're going through right now with the change in sentiment regarding ICE tactics in the Trump administration, and Trump petrified of losing the House in the midterms because they know it's over. And that's why Steve Bannon's talking about ICE intimidating people with weapons in front of polling booths. In America, the Gestapo, he's actually talking about using it that way because they're so worried about undocumented immigrants voting, which we know is not as rampant as they make it out to be. They just need the perception of it in their mind of the people that support them. But Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, laid off 300 journalists. And I know my canceling and thousands of other people that canceled their Washington Post subscriptions last year resulted in this. I apologize to the people that got laid off the Washington Post because I canceled my subscription. But Jeff Bezos has responsibility for this as well. And I don't trust Jeff Bezos anymore. Just like I don't trust Zuckerberg, I think they're sucking up to the Trump administration somehow. And that's what they're going to try to restructure the Washington Post. Because who does anybody else trust Jeff Bezos? Do you really think Jeff Bezos? I know I'm not telling people to cancel their Prime subscriptions. You know, I know it's convenient. My sister uses it. It's convenient for working moms. You know, you can make like shopping lists and stuff. But you realize the power. It knows what you buy. It listens to everything you say. You got Alexa in there or whatever it's called. And like my nephews, they talk to it like it's a friend. It's like a ghost that lives in their house, and they can talk to it and ask it questions and set alarms and ask it to tell a joke, and it'll tell them a joke, you know. But it's like, it's just too much power for one person to have, Jeff Bezos. And it shows you how the corruption, power, money, and greed corrupts everything. There's too much power in corporate America. The Supreme Court is giving too much power to corporate America. It's ruining our politics. That's my only thing. And if we don't seize upon this moment to check not only the power of the federal government, but corporate power in general. I work for a corporation. I'm a sellout. I work in a big office. Trust me, I question, you know, like everybody, I went to college, got a career. I thought, oh, you know, we'll go work in corporate America, and you live the American dream there. But the American dream didn't turn out the way I thought it was going to turn out. It turned into the nightmare. It caused me to question the whole power structure. And governments or corporations are a form of government as well. They have actually more direct power over our lives because they can cut off your economic access, and they can set rules and stuff. And corporations are not democracies or constitutional republics, and we know this. So here's hey, if you just joined here, we're in Lincoln Park here. We're on Cleveland Street there. There's the Old Town Market. The Old Town Market, these old storefronts that have been converted to housing. And here we'll head over past the Midwest Buddhist Center here. This temple, this nice turret here. We got 480. I guess this is Menominee Street, Menominee in Cleveland. We got about 22 degrees Fahrenheit. And we got about negative 5 Celsius. I need to check up on the comments here. I'm missing all the comments here. Sorry, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for commenting and tuning in. Yeah, lace up. Yeah, the advance of women's rights. I mean, think of that. You know, I reposted a video about, you know, Black Lives Matter. See, we went from Me Too to Black Lives Matter and all these social injustices that we were trying, police reform, and the pendulum swings the other way. Roe versus Wade gets overturned. The Supreme Court turns real patriarchal. And again, okay, so we were talking about how things of the federal government relate to corporate power, and corporate power supports federal power, and it's a form of corruption. Think about how much patriarchy is reinforced by the corporate power structure. How many Fortune 5 CEOs are not white men? How many social media billionaires are not white men? The only one I can think of is the guy that runs Google. He's from, you know, he has the South Asian heritage. But besides him, Elon Musk, South Africa, got race issues in South Africa that he brought to America. He brought the baggage of South African horrible racial apartheid to America, and he grew up under that system, so it did influence him. And his father profited from the apartheid system in South Africa. This is Elon Musk. Zuckerberg, a white guy. Jeff Bezos, a white guy. So again, I'm not saying it's not because they're smarter, more deserving than women. It's because the corporate power structure rewards what society rewards, which is our historical patriarchal system. Goes into white nationalism. That's another patriarchal system. I'm a man. I realize these systems benefit me too. And why should I be complaining about it? I reap the rewards from it. It's unearned privileges. We know this. But if you talk about this is why we got Trump. Because people reacted badly to this. The social inertia of our culture. You know, I'm not against capitalism at the peer-to-peer level. The mom and pop shop, people working at the trade, selling their profession, special services, you know, whatever it is. But when these economies of scale, the concentration of wealth, I'm against the corporate stock market model. I think that's what needs to be reformed. This is my opinion. Of course, don't care about my opinion because my opinion doesn't matter. My opinion is just mine. I'm not trying to convince you, change you. I'm just trying to work it out in my own mind as I walk to work. Sometimes when I walk, I can just like when you think, when you walk, that's what I'm doing. I'm just doing like throwing things out there and see how they sound when I say it out loud. Thanks for tuning in and welcome to Chicago. This is Sedgwick Street. We just crossed, we went past Margie's still there. I always walk through here. This is, I'm on my way to work. This is, we're by the LaSalle Language Academy here, Sedgwick Street. We're in Old Town. We just left Lincoln Park, kind of. Yeah, so San Diego, so you don't, see, these are very complex issues, you know. Ashkenazi Jewish people are white people. They've been in Europe for centuries. And they were over in the Caucasus and all over. There's Sephardic Jewish people that look more Middle Eastern. We know this. You know, if you want to get into the details of the weed, I'm speaking in broad generalities. But if you don't think Mark Zuckerberg benefits from white patriarchy, he wants to get in a cage match. He got all fake woke when he thought he had to under Obama, and they kept bringing him up on the stand there, and Biden. And now once Trump, he feels emboldened to have the male energy pervade through his corporate, a bunch of frat boy jokes, and that's the whole culture of Silicon Valley, which is very, you watch even the shows about it. You know, it's and all that's changing now anyway because of AI. Here's this is Eugenie Street. There's St. Michael's Church. So here here's the Twin Acres. We go by it all the time. This nice rib joint here on Sedgwick and Eugenie, Twin Acres. Of course, they filmed the movie Return to Me. It had Bonnie Hunt's in that, a local Chicago actress. Remember when she had her own show there, Twin Acres? This is Sedgwick Street. I still call it the Twin Acres in Lincoln Park. I know it's on the edge of Old Town. If you walk a block over, then you feel like you're more in Old Town. This is kind of like the edge, the transition between Lincoln Park and Old Town. Look at the garden apartments. Nice porches here. Yeah, greetings. Yeah, so you're defining white as white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Okay, well, we can go with that definition. I have ancestors that were German Catholic. The KKK burnt crosses on the church, the Catholic Church, in the 1920s because they were Catholic. So even Catholics in America can relate not as bad. The Jewish people had it much worse historically in America, as did Asian Americans, the Asian Exclusion Acts. They were put in detention camps during World War II. We know that. Jewish people were not put in detention camps in America, but Japanese people were. And fortunately at that time, America was accepted refugees, but we did not accept enough refugees because of the Holocaust. And it's complicated because the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and Netanyahu, I'm no fan of Netanyahu. We have to separate the actions of the Israeli government from the Jewish religion and ethnicity, which is, you know, religion's not an ethnicity, but sometimes it is. Here's, I'm confused too. See, this shows you why people are terrified of social media. Anytime you try to talk about anything in generalities, it leads to these, you know, fact check revisions, which is good. This is why we do it. So you show this is not AI, this is not contrived. I'm reacting to comments in real time, but I'm missing like 100 of them. Here's North Avenue. North Avenue at Sedgwick here. We'll go under the Sedgwick stop. But hey, we've been doing this for 3 years. I got good mods. We're used to it. Thanks for having a good discussion here. So here, let's see if the train pulls in here. We'll get to Sedgwick stop. Now we're in Old Town. And we'll walk over on Orleans Street, see if we see a train come by here. The British. Yeah, thanks, colonial masters there. We're legacy British culture here in America. That's why I speak English, even though I have ancestors that spoke German and Cherokee and Ladino. Who knows what Ladino is? Portuguese, Sephardic, Jewish people in the Iberian Peninsula. Yeah, see, I know something about this stuff. Here we're underneath the elevated tracks. Sedgwick stops right behind us there with that truck. You can't see the historic entrance. Sometimes we see a train rounding the bend here when we walk underneath here. People park. So hey, we're in Chicago. We're down at Old Town. We're south of North Avenue. We just left the Sedgwick stop on the CTA brown and purple line. Red line's the subway at this point. And you got to go to Clark and Lake to catch the red line. This goes down to Chicago Avenue. Yeah, I'm homeless. Thank you. Thanks for tuning into my homeless channel. I'm not trying to diminish homelessness. We encounter homeless people daily because it's part of urban life. Are you homeless? Hey, yeah. I know homeless people that have cell phones. And I don't know them well. I ran into them. And one time we were underneath it was negative, that week it was -7 last year. The coldest day we had last winter, and we ran into 2 young gentlemen that were sleeping in tents under Wacker Drive, and they showed me their fingers, and one of the guys lost 2 of his fingers to frostbite, and that really happened. And they were trying to figure out who I was, like if I was like police surveilling their tent encampment. I said, no, I'm just a live streamer. I said, here's my channel. And they pulled out their phones and they followed me, and maybe they're watching now. And I hope you're doing well, and it's part of living in the city. And I guess they could go to public places to recharge their phone, and maybe they were tapping into. Historically, people have gotten really creative and used their engineering skills. Like, I watched a movie, came out around 1999, 2000. It's called Dark Days. It's about the whole homeless community that lived in the approach tunnels to Penn Station in Manhattan, which there's a bunch of tunnels. I've gone through them on the Amtrak. When you take the Amtrak down the Hudson from Albany, you eventually cross the East River from the Bronx into Manhattan, and then you're along the Hudson River, and then you eventually go to in those tunnels. And I've seen the tents from the train. And they used to be a larger community. They tapped into the electrical wires of the underground, and they had TVs down there. They had lights, and it was pretty extensive. It was this whole and I think in Las Vegas there are big flood control tunnels that sometimes fill with water, and they were in the desert. When it doesn't rain for a long time, people have couches and sleep down there. But you got to be careful, because you got to check the weather report, because you might be sleeping in the middle of the night and it turns into a flood and you get washed out of the tunnel. And so it's like sleeping in a cave with water running through it. You got to check the weather report. Here we'll see I hear a train coming by here. Here we're on Orleans Street, Chicago, Illinois. There's the brown line. There's the brown line heading through here. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Chicago. Yeah, we're in the Forber Cabrini Green area. We were walking through here yesterday morning. We ran into Engaging Foodie. I posted that. It was her birthday earlier this week, so again, a happy belated birthday to Engaging Foodie. She was walking her dog. We were over further. We were on the other side, the Marshall Field Garden Apartments. Yesterday, we went over to the casino side. I also posted on YouTube update on the casino construction progress for the new Bally's Casino on the North Branch of Chicago River, across from the old Marshall or Montgomery Wards. And I'll post that to TikTok eventually. I just haven't gotten to it. Hey, thanks for tuning in, YouTube. This is Chicago, 7:10 in the a.m., walking to work. We're on the backside of Old Town. There's the elevated train tracks. We're at Schiller and Orleans Street. We're going to head over to Wells, and we'll go through Old Town there. And head toward, I don't know if we'll go through the Gold Coast. Maybe we'll just head down towards Washington Square, Chicago, Illinois. We're heading down towards the Loop. I'm eventually get to Michigan Avenue. And -5 Celsius, 22 degrees Fahrenheit, 7:10 in the a.m. If you like that, hit the thumbs up. Allows more people to find this content. And here, let me show you. If you zoom in right here, so you can see the Sears Tower right between the tracks. That's the Sears Tower, a classic scene of Chicago, the elevated. And this line's abandoned. There used to be 4 tracks, and then they only got 2 tracks running through here now. There used to be, I guess, 4 tracks that went all through here, but they removed them. Or maybe there was a station here. I wonder if there was a station here. It looks like there was a station here at one time, and it looks like the platform could have. They removed a lot of stations in the 1950s. There used to be. It was the elevated trains didn't used to be as long. They were only like 2 cars. Now they're like 4 to 12 cars, depending on what line. Wonder Lake, McHenry County. Yeah, how you doing there? Well, the center tracks are maintained. This is still an active track. It looks rusty because we have harsh winters and things rust. And this line was built in 1900, so it's 125 years old, and it still works. See, there's the purple line heading across here. Here we'll head over towards Wells Street. Hey, there, one train goes one way, one goes the other. There it is. Look at that. So the purple line goes one way, one goes the other way. So I'm glad you're concerned about the infrastructure conditions of Chicago. Would you be willing to spend more of your tax money towards transit infrastructure? Illinois did pass a bill that because we lost federal funding at the federal level, so the Trump administration is cutting funding to cities, especially cities like Chicago that are left-leaning sanctuary cities. We're losing our federal funding for a lot of our social programs, so the state had to scramble and provide a funding mechanism for the CTA because, so if you're concerned about the condition of our railroad infrastructure, please tell the current administration to release the funds. Here's what were they saying about currently, for some reason, the current administration is delaying imports of materials that are needed for wind farms and for solar photovoltaic fields. And as the data centers still soak up our energy, you notice utility bills are going up, electricity bills are going up, and it's all connected. We still, even though fossil fuels are back, they're back, baby. Steal that Venezuela oil, yeah. But we still need a diverse amount of energy sources. We can't put all our eggs in one basket. We can't just rely on coal and oil. We need renewables in the mix as well. We want to maintain affordable electricity because, there might be a power outage. I mean, there might be a storm that knocks out a power plant and you need to rely on the other one. That's what happened in Texas. You get the brownouts there. Here, Third Coast Stitches. So this is Wells Street. Yeah, let's head down Wells Street. Oh, look, Paris. So this is new, Third Coast Stitches. And they just it's kind of the same thing as it was before there. This was String of Strand. String of Strand. That's kind of like String of Strand, but it's new. And here we'll head down Wells Street, the old Cobbler Square Western Wheel Company was here. See, National Historic Places, Carpeted Interior, Windy City Travel. Just this classic Italianate facade here, Windy City Travel. It always reminds me of my Big Fat Greek Wedding there. She ran a travel agency in Chicago. Hey, Judy Maxwell, I think Joan Cusack has something to do with this story. Look at this old TV. See, they got the Valentine's Day stuff. So I got to reply to somebody. There's some Valentine's Day stuff going on in the South Loop, and I'll reply to that person. I don't want to commit. You know how I'm a typical single man. I don't like to commit to anything, even just like showing up to something to live stream. But they're setting up some Valentine's Day stuff, and you know, we might be down there anyway for the auto show, which is at the McCormick Place, and it's in Motor Row, which is South Michigan Avenue. So we haven't been down that way in a while, and maybe I can combine all these things. I think it's going to be next Monday or Tuesday. We'll figure it out. There's this J Beauty, K Beauty. If you just joined me in Chicago, we're on Wells Street here, Chicago, Illinois, United States of America, planet Earth. We got 7:16 a.m. J Beauty, K Beauty. This just opened this year on Wells Street, and we're down by Goethe. Yeah, you reinforced my point, Gary. Thanks for bringing up the good point. Yeah, we need multiple sources of energy. We can't not just rely on renewables. We cannot just rely on oil and coal. We need a mix. We need just like you have a diverse portfolio. You don't put all your stock in one piece of one. If you put all your, you know, let's say if you put everything in Enron, you know, and then Enron tanks, you need some other stock to sell, or you need to sell that stock and buy something else, or use some other energy source. You know, and the prices fluctuate according to what's geopolitical risks. It's just called hedging your bet. It's a simple concept that applies to a lot of things. Yeah, America's embracing nuclear because you know why? The data centers need so much energy. They're building mini nuclear power plants all across the country. Does that make you feel safe? You trust the government to regulate all that and make sure it doesn't leak out and cause 3 Mile Island, you know, or Chernobyl. Yeah, see, positive, negatives to everything, even nuclear energy. But here, welcome to Wells Street, Old Town Chicago. Here's the Fresh Market. Just heading down this commercial strip, Wells Street, Chicago. We got bike lanes. No, yeah, Texas, how you doing there? Yeah. There you go. Look at Lee's good comment. Too much reliance on a single power source would be a mercy. We would be at the mercy and dependence of big corporations, and that goes right back to what I was talking about. If we don't use this moment, we got to start preparing for the world that comes after Trumpism, because there will be a world after Trumpism. What's it going to look like? Who are we going to hold to account for all this stuff? We've learned from the Epstein files that it actually exists. There is a vast network of intelligence agencies that conspire to protect the powerful billionaires. They try to get dirt on them to have leverage on them, to get stock secrets, money, greed, power, to affect governments, to blackmail people. All intelligence agencies do it. They use the vices of people, drugs, women, little girls. They will protect people in power, breaking the law, because they'd rather make money, and it's so tragic that they destroy the lives of the little people, which in this case, in the Epstein files, was the women and the girls. And they were so careless to release all those things and still release the name of the victims and not the people that are accused. And you could, you know, both the right and the left. The Epstein files is a rare bipartisan issue that even people in MAGA, they want the files released, because they don't like the concentration of power either, except if it's in Trump, which is weird, because I consider that a little hypocritical. And I know the Democrats accepted too much power in their leaders too, because we overlook our own hypocrisy. There's hypocrisy on the left, there's hypocrisy on the right. I admit it, but you know, that's why I'm kind of disenchanted in both parties, even though I really don't like the current administration and their policies. The Democrats has problems too as well. The Social Democrats have problems too. I don't know. There's no perfect party for a lot of us. So that's why I'm an independent. And I lean to the left. I'm very liberal in a lot of my stuff, but you know, I'll vote for whoever's running against the current administration, but doesn't mean I like them either. A lot of times you vote against somebody more than voting for the candidate you're voting for. It's like a protest vote. And no matter which party's in power, usually the midterms swing the other way. There's the red line. There's the red line subway tunnel. And Trump knows it too. That's why he's trying to federalize the elections, because he doesn't want to lose or look like a loser. Good luck with that. Public humiliation. What's that? Looks like some cantaloupe. But hey, if you just joined here, we're on Division Street. We're over at LaSalle. So LaSalle and Division Street, Chicago, Illinois. Thanks for tuning in. How you doing? We're going to head over to Michigan Avenue. Eventually, we're going to go through Washington Park and see if any dogs are out there. Here's LaSalle Street. Got 10 seconds to get across here. You can look down and see the Board of Trade. So LaSalle Street. There's some housing here. See, this is the subway entrance to the Red Line Clark and Division stop. We're on the South Street side. Subway Red Line. On the Red Line. Yeah, the same policies in the politician there. There you go. Hey, leave. That's good. That's a good comment there. Yeah, the meta glasses. It's going to be interesting because, you know, I've been live streaming for 3 years. I carry a gimbal. So, you know, here's me, Brian Really Chicago. I don't work for ICE. I'm just a guy that works for architecture engineering firm. I'm heading downtown to my corporate office job. Do this usually weekdays. That's why we live stream in the morning so early. But thanks for being intelligent, honest. Thanks for being an independent. Thanks for listening to what I'm saying. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just trying to work things out in my own mind. I don't have all the answers. I'm just trying to be a real person and have a discussion piece. We can't act like nothing's going on, you know. Hey, my dad's doing good. Thanks for asking. We went down to Texas. I talked to him once a week. I'm worried about, you know, like, look at, you know, all of us should be concerned and be empathetic what's happening to Savannah Guthrie, because, you know, I guess kidnappings of, it's positive and negatives, everything. If you're in the public, if you're a celebrity or a politician, that's why even, you know, people that work for federal law enforcement, that's why they wear the mask. They're worried about getting doxxed. Well, it does really happen. You know, Nancy Pelosi's husband, it happens on the right. Look what happened to Charlie Kirk. It was horrible. That was horrible. I even though I didn't agree with everything he said, he didn't deserve that. Political violence is wrong. But I even consider what's happened to Savannah Guthrie. In our current political climate, it's intimidation of a media personality by somebody kidnapped her mom and wants a ransom. Now, if the person's just out for money and didn't do it for politics, and it's just a regular criminal that sees an opportunity, that's one thing. If it's part of a greater conspiracy to intimidate the media by, if this could happen to Savannah Guthrie, it could happen to you, and I worry about my dad, I worry about my sister, I worry about me. People are so worried, you know, I worry about you, I worry about your family. Everybody, by live streaming in this city, we see people, how anxious people are of this city, the crime in this city, and the feeling of safety. But it's across the country. People feel unsafe and anxiety everywhere. And of course, people are afraid of the big cities, but people, you know, people are afraid everywhere. There's this anxiety, and even the fear of ICE. You know, it's not on balance completely. It still brings violence to our streets. The way they're enforcing it, it brings violence to our streets that we got to see daily. And it's hard for people to watch social media because the amount of violent encounters, it's just not. It's not normal. It's not normal to have, you know, and so I guess, you know, we thought this was going to be temporary. They want to make it permanent. So if ICE becomes a permanent Gestapo, you know, again, what happens after the administration's over? You know, what comes next? I'm trying to prepare for a post-Trump world. That's the only way I'm staying sane. And if we don't use this moment to hold people in power to account, corporations, people in the Epstein files, we will lose this moment to affect positive change for our society, for immigrants, for women, for, you know, racial profiling. The racism and the sexism in this nation is racist. It's obvious. We can talk about it now because the gloves have come off. It's basically obvious. Before all this, we said, "Oh, what are you talking about? You know, you're imagining this." It's in our face. Roe versus Wade, the erosion, the way the president of the United States treats female reporters. I'm not even a woman, and I sense this. I don't know. You know, even if you're a conservative woman, do you like the fact the president just like demeans women, immediately attacks them for asking a question that reporters ask questions on behalf of the public. You and I don't get to stand there and ask the president a question. The female reporter from MSNBC does. And for him to belittle her and talk to her down the way, not answer her question, he's doing it to us, the public. That's how he really thinks about us. You know, he just wants everybody to, I don't expect people to agree with my opinion. Why does he expect people to agree with his? You know, that's politics, and I know people are tired of me talking about it. You want me to talk about the squirrels and the snow and the, you know, sports teams and, you know, whatever social media influencer wants to talk about, fashion, food. People want me to talk about food. You know, I'll talk about food. I eat at home. I can't afford to eat out at restaurants. I'm a horrible foodie because I can't afford in this city to eat in the restaurants I went to, and I have a 6-figure job and I can't afford a car in this city. And people are like, move out of Chicago. You're right. This city is a money pit. I've been losing money for 25 years in this city. It's an abusive relationship. But I feel that way about America. Chicago's part of America, so if it's happening to Chicago, it's happening to America. So how can America be great if it doesn't have great cities? And here's the Newberry Library. Yeah, we'll walk over to Washington Square Park. So if you just joined, we're now on Clark Street. That's Clark and Oak Street. And we're kind of leaving the Gold Coast and we're heading down towards River North. Chicago, Illinois, United States, America, planet Earth. We got around 22 degrees Fahrenheit, -5 Celsius, and 7:27 in the AM. How you doing? Walton and Clark Street. You got a bike path. See, they added this bike path. It's a 2-lane bike path in this portion, then becomes one way down Clark. Dearborn Street is one way going north. And here's the Newberry Library, this Romanesque revival style. These some interesting buildings. That's a low prairie looking style. It looks like Frank Lloyd Wright, but it's not. They just built it in that style. That was infill there. Here, Washington Square Park, Chicago, Illinois. Studs Terkel used to call this Bug House Square. And the soapbox speech was perfected here. So, young Pepe, what would you do to improve cities, to make cities better besides just like, you know, killing all the Democrats? Is there another way to make cities better? So you're saying if cities were run by Republicans, everything would be perfect? Is that? I don't think that's what you're saying either. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm trying to understand your comment there. Here, welcome to Washington Square Park. Here's, and I know you didn't say kill Democrats. I said that because I feel like doing it to myself sometimes. Here's look at the fountain here. It's still decorated for Christmas. They got the lights here. That's the pretty snow here, Washington Square Park. People come out here and walk their dogs. See, they're walking the dogs. Got a big stick. I like that. See, speak softly, carry a big stick like Teddy Roosevelt. We're here, Washington Square Park, Chicago, Illinois. Thanks for tuning in. So, Michael Michelle, are you one of those people calling ICE on your neighbors? Michael Michelle, are you ready for ICE? What are we going to do in a post-Trump world? Because eventually we're going to live in a post-Trump world. And we're going to have to live with people that were ICE, and they're going to have to live with the people knowing they were part of ICE the rest of their lives. You know? This will not end. We got to start preparing for what comes after the midterm elections in November 2026, because there will be elections. I have confidence in the American people that they will risk their lives. that people on the left will arm themselves and exercise their Second Amendment right to vote. And if the long predicted civil war will begin under Trump's second term, it'll begin if ICE is used at gunpoint to intimidate people at the polling booth. And they'll say, oh, we're just looking for undocumented immigrants. No, they're there to intimidate people voting against Trump. And if you think that's an American virtue, you and I have a serious disagreement, sir, or ma'am, or whoever you are. And it's getting real. You force Americans to deal with an existential threat, enforcement of policy at the point of a gun. You know, it's getting real. And I'm against political violence. I'm trying to maintain my sanity in all this as well. We're going to get comments. Half the comments we're getting are robot bots. Because this is YouTube. TikTok's worse. TikTok's now owned by Larry Epstein. You notice now when you launch TikTok, you get the same ad over and over again? Somebody paid for that ad. So the first TikTok you see from now on is always a paid advertisement. And sometimes it's the federal government paying for that advertisement. You're going to open TikTok, you're going to see a pro-ICE ad. The first ICE, you can say ICE is helping make America beautiful again. ICE, and they'll have this patriotic movement. You should support ICE. You know, we're making America beautiful and great again. And that was paid for by your tax money. And if that makes you happy, pay your taxes. When you want to pay more taxes for more ICE commercials, $85 billion budget. We know you don't care about government waste. You just want money to be spent against the right people. But here, this is, look at that beautiful detail. This is on Chestnut Street in Dearborn here. There's the old YMCA. Look at this beautiful building. Look at these Italianate buildings across the street. This is Chestnut Street. River North, Chicago, Illinois. So these are left over. So you see how the density of the neighborhood changed over time. And these are the ones that are left on the side street here. And they used to be all, shows you how many buildings we've lost. And of course, this whole area was destroyed by the Great Chicago Fire in 1871. So we don't even know what was built here before that. It was something else. Brainwashing ads, are you seeing those? Yeah, stop by Sharon's. Yeah, you notice more pro-Israeli commercials too. I noticed it on regular TV. And again, that's the money and power in billionaires, and they can buy advertising to try to affect public opinion. If they do it for elections, they'll do it for policy. And it's too much money in the system corrupts everything. We've lost our soul in America. If America's just about money, money doesn't solve all social ills. Right? Money actually creates social ills that frustrate people as well, like what happened in the Epstein files. Rich and powerful were able to jet set and do stuff that less powerful people and get away with it. Story of history over time. You know, we know how human nature is. It's horrible. And the fact that the government itself is protecting it shows they're hypocritical. They use the law to go after the people they want to, and they protect the people that break the law that they can get money from. And both parties do it. That's why Bill and Hillary Clinton are on, mainly Bill Clinton's on the, he has to do a deposition. Again. It's not even worth deposing Trump. There's nothing truthful that's going to come out of his mouth anyway. That's my opinion. Here's or nothing that can be trusted. Here's State Street. And backed into a corner, I lie too. It's human nature. You do what you have to do to survive. You believe your own lies. You know? You can believe your own lies, then you can convincingly tell them better. Because you really believe them. And dementia helps, trust me. I'm starting to get there myself. Here's, hey, thanks for tuning in here. We're at Chicago Avenue and State Street. The State and Chicago Avenue. The Chicago Avenue stop on the red lines right there. We'll cross the street here. We'll show you the Holy Name Cathedral, the Archdiocese of the Catholic Church here in Chicago. We'll show you the bullet hole where Jaime Weiss was gunned down by Machine Gun McGurn, who was a proxy for Al Capone. Schofield's flower shop, originally ran by Dean O'Banion, who was killed by Al Capone in the early 1920s, is right where the Whole Foods was. It was Schofield's flower shop, right across from the Holy Name Cathedral. The amount of flowers that they that they put on the Dino Banion's funeral was legendary. And the church would not give him a burial in the church because they knew he was a gangster, as far as I understand. You can go to the Untouchable tours and find out more about this. This is the one Chicago tower. They built this about 2018. There's a Whole Foods market. But there's where Schofield's flower shop used to be. Dino Banion, if you watch Boardwalk Empire, goes through all this. Here's the Francis Xavier Ward School. It's a parochial school here. We see the crossing guard, and I'm too early. Well, maybe I'm too late. 7:35. Maybe school's already started. But here's the one Chicago tower. Here it is. Just under 1,000 feet. It's like 960. All residential. But here's the Holy Name Cathedral. Holy Name Cathedral, Chicago, Illinois. And we got inside. This is where Cardinal Cupich gives the televised mass on Sundays. And he went to the Vatican to pick the Chicago Pope. Imagine that. Cupich got to vote for the Pope Leo the 14th there. Chicago Pope. But there it is. I'm not convinced that this is a bullet hole. This might be a weep hole or something. But see, people say that's a bullet hole from when Jaime Weiss, if you go to the AD 1874. The year after 3 years after the Great Chicago Fire. The Great Chicago Fire was 1871. This church was destroyed. That happened in 1926 when Jaime Weiss was gunned down by Machine Gun McGurn, and Schofield's flower shop was right there. This is the steps of the Holy Name Cathedral. We're talking about Chicago gangland violence in the 1920s from Al Capone. We're walking to work here. Holy Name Cathedral. This is State Street. Yeah, let's head over to Wabash. We'll go down Wabash. We'll go all the way down to Uno's Pizzeria if people want to know about the Chicago style pizza. the tourist pizza. Yeah, it doesn't look like a bullet hole. I know. It looks like a weep hole. And there is a bullet hole. I think it's just like a nick, because there were several. It was like a machine gun, so it was several rounds that were fired, and they did nick the steps. If you watch the, yeah, I don't think a bullet would chip away. It would just like chip away the stone. It wouldn't go through it like that. But I don't know what they say on the Untouchable tours. Maybe you got to take the Untouchable tours. Maybe I got to take the Untouchable tours to find where the real bullet hole is. If anybody knows, somebody in the comments, they say look above the AD sign, and I thought that's what it was. Well, the nature of social media is I've said things that I know to be true, and people will bring up, they'll challenge anything. You know, I'll say like the Great Chicago Fire was in 1871. Somebody will be like, no, it's not. I'm like, well, when was it? And they'll say a different date, and I'm like, okay, look at Wikipedia, ask ChatGPT, look in a history book, and then they'll be like, oh, they won't say they're wrong. They'll just like delete my account. You know, it's just usually what happens. So please don't delete my account. I do make errors sometimes. Here's Wabash. This is all live and on the fly. If you don't think you must speak, the more you talk, eventually you'll make a gaffe. That's why politicians are always making a gaffe, because they're talking so much. You eventually say something your butt writes a check, your mouth writes a check that your butt can't cash. Hey, La Petito. So this is Wabash Street, and we're at like Huron. That's the Trump Tower right there. And let's cross the street. Yeah, discussing critiques. I'm used to that. Hey, there's the Trump Tower looking straight down Wabash. Here's the St. James Cathedral. So portions of this tower survived the Great Chicago Fire, but it was pretty much in ruins. It destroyed the roof. So they rebuilt it, and then the roof caught fire later, and then they rebuilt it again. This is St. James Cathedral here on Wabash and Huron. And this used to be called Cass Avenue. It used to be called Cass Street. Now it's called Wabash, the line with the Wabash south of the river. I don't know what the scaffolding's here for. Yeah, tame your craziness. Italy, how you doing there? Mr. Allegro. Yeah. Yeah, Chicago's clean except for the yellow snow. There's a spoon. Hey, they got some concerts here. Jennifer You Should Eat was inside there a week or so ago. I saw they were having a concert. Yeah, they were having some music or something. Here's the Dree House. Is a museum. You can go inside. They won't let me film in there. Otherwise, I would have probably made a TikTok of it already. But here's the Dree House Museum in River North. There's the Cable House. That's a Richardsonian Romanesque Gilded Age mansion. Stone walls that was built in like around 1890. Let's cross the street to show it here. And Cable, his name was Ransom Cable. He was a railroad baron, like with Ogden. They were some of the original investors, and they built the railroads. And here I'm trying to get around this car. I'm trying to go behind it. But here, look at the detail here. One time I went by here, I saw a bunch of antique cars parked next to this, and it was nice because you felt like you were back in time. Look at this porch. There it is, 25 East Erie, private property. It's got a plaque on it. Look at that detail. Hey, watch out for falling ice. Here's a Holiday Inn Express. See right here, evidence of this being called Cass. This used to be called Hotel Cass because it was Cass Avenue. And it's Wabash, but that's why it was called Hotel Cass, because this was Cass Avenue. There's the Wake and Bakery, and there's Trader Joe's, Trump Tower, Wabash. We're down by Ontario. Indonesia, how you doing there? Yeah, people tuning in from all over the earth. That's great. Yeah, New York City. Uzbekistan, how you doing, Uzbekistan? That's great. There's the Wake and Bakery. There's Douay's. So people ask about Chicago-style pizza. That's the second Uno's. It's called Douay's. They took that mansard roof, that French Renaissance Revival building, and turned it into a pizzeria. This is the temporary Ballet Casino site. It used to be the Medina Medina Temple Auditorium. The Shriners had this built. They're an offshoot of the Masons. The Masons, the Shriners, the ones that drive the little cars, they're all Masons. But it's a subgroup of the Masons, the Shriners. And they used to have the Shriner Circus in here. But there's Pizzeria Douay in Chicago. And here's the City Casino, temporary. Also, I'll post the footage. It's already posted to YouTube. I'll create a TikTok of it. The update for the new Bally's permanent location on the North Branch. It's pretty large. They're building a hotel over there, concert venue, and restaurants. People will be able to pull their boats. But hey, the casino's open. You can go gamble right now. 600 North Wabash, Chicago, Illinois. United States of America, planet Earth. There's Trump Tower. Big parking garage, plenty of parking. They kick everybody out for a few hours, like 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., but then it opens up. I think it's open right now. All gambling all the time. So, like I said, I don't think it's open 24 hours in a row. It's open like 22 hours a day. I think they close it like 2 hours to clean it or kick everybody out. But there's the Trump Tower. There's Pizzeria Uno's. So that's the first Uno's Chicago-style pizza. It was founded in the 1950s by a guy from Texas. There's the original Uno's Chicago-style pizza here in Chicago. It's right next to the temporary casino here. So here we'll head around.
Maybe it guessed it.
And here's Italy. It's an Italian grocery store chain that's in some major cities throughout the world. 2 hours to count the money. That's right, Scotchy. How you doing? Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I hope I'm healthy. I don't know. I don't eat the healthiest food, but I do walk a lot. I walk about, on average, 10 miles a day. Now, that helps, but that's not, you still got to eat health. I probably got to eat less ice cream and more vegetables, but I eat too much salt, too much fat, too many hamburgers, or cheeseburgers. Cheeseburger. Remember when this was Disney Quest? This used to be Disney Quest. Now it's room and board. It's been a furniture store for a while, I think. I'm gonna walk across the muck here. No footing at all. But this is Ohio Street. Ohio Street comes off the Kennedy. A lot of people come off the Kennedy Expressway and they enter Streeterville, go to the hospitals this way. Yeah, let's go underneath the Gwyn here. We don't usually go this way. Yeah, thanks for tuning in there. Walking's the best exercise. Yeah, Grandma's Corner, thanks for being on. Denise, you, John, yeah, Penelope. This is called the Gwyn Hotel. And they added that when they did the Nordstrom Mall. Look at the Nordstrom Mall. Here's, hey, look at this little construction equipment. So Grand Avenue. Yeah, let's go to the lower level. Let's go to the lower level of Michigan, and then we can pop right on Michigan Avenue. So here's Nordstrom Mall, the Gwyn Hotel. See the Nordstrom Mall right there. It's got a bike path here. This is Grand Avenue. You can go over to Navy Pier, and there's the top of Trump Tower. And see how from Michigan Avenue, you can't even see you're crossing a street on this side because that's the entrance to the Nordstrom Mall from Michigan Avenue. And we'll go to Lower Michigan, and then we'll head up the stairs, and we'll pop right. We'll be right in the North Michigan Avenue. North Chicago, yeah. Yeah, it's cold, 22 degrees. Yeah, I'm always downtown because I got a job downtown, so that's why I'm down here so much. So, hey, thanks for checking it out. Gotta go to work, what a bummer. Look at all this traffic. What's all this traffic down here underneath Michigan? Where are all these people going? See, they got these murals here. So somebody's tuning in right now. They're like, where's this guy at? Is he underneath the... See, that goes up to Michigan Avenue. So that's how you can get up to Michigan Avenue. We'll wait across the street here. I'll show you here. So I think we can cut back down here. So this is where we're at, Michigan Avenue. See, there's the Allerton Tip Top Tap. And if you look this way, see, that's where we're gonna go. So there's the Tribune Tower and everything else. So let's go down here. That guy was looking at me, he's like, oh, he doesn't think I'm ice. I'm like, I'm just showing how you get to the lower levels of Michigan and Wacker here. I was waiting for this light to change. Look at all this traffic. Where's this traffic coming from? I can't even cross the street. Yeah, let's go on this side. It's easier to walk on this side. So if you just joined me in Chicago, we're in the lower levels of Michigan Avenue. We're still north of the river. We can head all the way across the river this way. We can just stay down here. If it rains, if I get caught in the rain, I'll head down here. Here we got the light just in time. So Navy Pier's that way, Grand Avenue, you see the Ferris wheel. This is underneath Michigan Avenue, Grand Avenue. We'll walk along the loading docks here. Hey, we're doing good here. How you doing, Albert? Yeah. Hey, you're watching from Hawaii. That's great. You got it in your name there. That's great. Yeah, Dr. Richard Kimball. You got it. Thanks for the nice, the Fugitive movie reference. Yeah, they're behind the, we'll walk right by there. Behind the Wrigley building, that's where Dr. Richard Kimball, which in the movie, that was his doctor that portrayed him, that set him up to take the fall. And Harrison Ford was starting to realize it right then, and that's in the Fugitive movie. Yeah, they filmed that down there. How you doing? We're just heading along the loading docks here. We'll head over to the Chicago River. So 505. There, see, Michael Jordan Steakhouse is above us. So above us is the Intercontinental Hotel, and then we'll eventually get to the Tribune and the Wrigley Building. Lower Michigan Avenue. We'll go by Billy Goats and all that. So, hey, thanks for tuning in. The lower levels of Chicago. That goes to Streeterville. And we're still above the ground. This is like the real ground. And you see how Michigan Avenue, as it approaches the river, is raised like a causeway. It extends across the river to Wacker Drive and goes a few blocks south. And that's the area we're at here. Lower Michigan Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. United States of America, planet Earth. We got 22 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 5 Celsius. But again, 7:49 in the PM. I'm going to use the next 9 months. I've really got a countdown to the midterm elections. 9 months to the midterm elections. We got to start preparing for what comes after Trump. Even if you're a Trump supporter, we got to start preparing for what comes after Trump, because we don't want massive upheaval, mass chaos, stock market dropping 50%. All kinds of crazy upheaval is going to happen either by Trump losing power or him serving out the best of his office. We're going to have to prepare for this. And I'm treating it as an opportunity to think positive about this country. This country is bigger than any president. The United States of America and the Constitution's bigger than Donald Trump. We will get through this. We're being tested. America's always tested. Think about the people who went through the Civil War. Think about people who went through World War II. America's constantly being tested and challenged, either by foreign enemies or domestic. And it's politically hard for us to keep it all together. How can a country as large, as diverse as we are, how do we keep it all together? That's the challenge of humanity. And we got to overcome our basic evil instincts. That's why people react so badly to the Epstein files. It's women feel it. That's why it took me, as a dense heterosexual male of a certain age, it took me a long time to realize the Me Too movement was about power. It was about power in corporate America. It was about power in society and how women fit in and how they're treated by powerful men, people with money. They can get away with stuff that poor guys can't get away with, nor should they. And that's what it's about. It's about power and money and buying people, silencing people with money. And that's what's going on with the Epstein files. So we'll seize upon this righteous moment and see how corporate America is protecting corporate power. Because America, we've lost our soul. We sold our soul for money. America's become about money instead of ideals. Here, look, here's the frozen Chicago River. I mean, it's just exposing. It's always about the money. It's always about exploitation and manipulation. Here's even back to the founding fathers. The founding fathers talked about freedom. A lot of the founding fathers were slave owners, so they were hypocrites too. We got to remember that they were flawed humans as well, you know. And they were men too. We don't talk about the founding mothers. Here's Betsy Ross. She got to sew the flag. Oh, Betsy Ross got to sew the flag. Wow. Get in there, women, and sew the flag. I'm joking. I'm talking about the historical patriarchy in most Western civilization. Here's hey, look at that. There's the frozen Chicago River. And I posted that video of the Christopher Wheatley fireboat. Yeah, it's named after a fallen Chicago firefighter. Somebody in the comments wrote that, and I appreciate that. Thanks for putting that in there. I should have mentioned it in the video, but I was just trying to get I know it wasn't breaking up the ice. They got a tugboat that breaks up the ice. The fireboat could. It's big enough. It's strong enough. But the tugboat broke up the ice. And here, let's head up back up. We'll go up to the upper level. So here, Chicago, Illinois. This is Wacker Drive, United States of America, and this is Chicago River. This is the Michigan Avenue Bridge. There's the Tribune Tower and the Wrigley Building. Hey, look at the flags. Get the Chicago flag, the American flag. Icy River. There's the Sheridan Hotel, Riverwalk. It's looking towards the lake. Hey, look at all these stickers. Look at all these stickers people stuck on this beam. Bikini Car Wash. Is that the name of a band? Here's, there was a band called Bikini Kill. Who remembers them? Here's, I missed the 90s. There's the, oops, sorry. There's the Tribune and the Wrigley. A nice view. So, hey, we got the light. Let's head across Wacker Drive. There's the Trump Tower, second tallest building in Chicago. Wacker, Michigan. Hey, look at that. There's Marina Towers. Michigan Avenue. Blackhawk Store. Fannie Mae. Chicago Architecture Center. I'm gonna head to work here. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate everybody. Thanks for keeping me company on my walk to work. We'll walk noon to 1. I usually walk my lunch break. And it was supposed to snow this morning. I didn't see any snow. Did anybody get any lake effect snow? I think it's supposed to snow tonight. I think after midnight we might get some snow tomorrow. And we're still in February here. Best uniform in NHL history. Here's the 333. North Michigan. Nah, thanks, Shy Girl. Oh, it's Chicago MP4 in front of me? I'll look for Chicago MP4. He's prolific. He's all over the place. I commend my fellow Chicago live streamers. Chicago MP4 and Steve Lyon could get much more people to watch them than me on TikTok. I've seen Steve Lyon get 4,000 people watch him at once. Ernie got 7,000 people watching him on New Year's Eve. I was proud of Ernesto for, that's really hard to get that many people to watch anything and not have your live crash. It was feeding out his live stream to 7,000 people at once all over the world. We take this technology for granted, you know. But yeah, Chicago MP4, follow Chicago MP4, follow Alexander Chicago, Steve Lyon, Ernesto Chicago Nuggies, City Walking Girl, Nia, Jennifer You Should Eat. The list goes on. I always leave people out. Lux. If I start listing all, it's like Chicago pizza joints. You know, Overtime Seb. Watch Overtime Seb. Watch Nick Koiken. You know, watch Ken's. We got all these live streamers in Chicago, which is great. Carlos was live streaming on the train. Carlos was with Ernie. I forget. I think his name is Carlos Really or something. Really Carlos. It's Really Carlos. That's great. That was a great New Year's. You watched that, Shauna. Jose. Jose was right next to Ernie. We got Jose, the live streamer. We got Vicky from Little Village. I guess she's still streaming. I haven't seen her, but it doesn't mean she's not live streaming. And that's just to mention a few. And we got Keys Carter. Check out Keys Carter. We got Malik the firefighter. Check out Malik the firefighter. We got 77 flavors of Chicago. He's all over Instagram. He knows history better than I do, as does Jennifer, you know. And thanks everybody for tuning in, checking out Chicago here. We'll see you at lunchtime, noon to 1. And yeah, you can switch over to TikTok, watch MP4 if you want to still see some Chicago. Switch over to MP4. Thanks for watching me on YouTube. I got to go to work here. We got 7:57. I'm actually at work on time. There's the Carbide building, Michigan Avenue. We'll see you after 1 o'clock or afternoon, 12 p.m. Chicago time, and then we'll walk home tonight after 5 on YouTube. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day. Yeah, one gold newbie and Shauna. Shauna, thanks for being on Grim Evil. Shy Girl, Jason, Davo. Okay, we'll miss you all. Best live stream on YouTube. Thanks, Pick.